So, I love movies, just so you know. Movies are one of my favorite things to do. Um, if Johnny was really nice, she'd be broadcasting from my movie room, or she could show you around the room that has 5,000 movies in it. Because I love movies. But here's what I want you to do. Tell me one movie that means something to you. Introduce yourself, tell everyone who you are, and then say, I like this movie. And then tell us why. All right? So, Joe, you get to go first.
I don't have one that's popping in my head, so I need to think about that for.
Doesn't have to be your favorite. Doesn't have to be, a definitive answer, just any movie. I, for years, used to say, when people would ask what my favorite movie was, I would say Flash Gordon from the 1980s. The one with Sam Jones as Flash Gordon, because it was just cheesy as could be, just funny, and just so I could, say something different. So how about the rest of you?
Well, I was just thinking about the movies I've seen recently, and I really like the movie, and it's on your list. I really like the movie Harriet. And the reason why I like the movie Harriet was it was spiritual in the sense of how she was driven, and there was so much hope in it.
There was, wasn't there?
Good. Her love for, her people, her putting herself at risk, and she didn't care, and she was going for a cause. It was just such a feel-good movie.
And just the determination to overcome all of the things that would have stopped a lot of us.
And it was interesting. She was dressed like, they didn't even know she was a woman. She dressed up like a guy so she could be acceptable.
Yeah.
And she made it in a world where she wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah, incredible, huh? Anyone else? Joe, did you get to your movie yet?
Well, I can never remember names of movies, but what's the one that I liked about the dog who waited for Richard Gere at the train station? It's got one word, Japanese. That's Hachi.
Hachi, that's right.
I really like that movie. It's really sad, but really uplifting at the same time. And I love movies that have animals in them, specifically dogs, because they're so great as companions. And those stories that are told through movies about them is really neat, I think.
Garnet, are you on yet? I don't think so.
Try and call on.
Try calling in, Garnet. That might work. You've done that before. So our job today is to just celebrate movies, just to talk about all the different ones that meant something to us, why they meant something, but also to talk about the ones that challenged us, right? Because movies aren't just good. I used to say that a movie was good if I got to escape for a couple hours, right? And that's not a bad thing for a movie. Get out of whatever's normal, whatever's pressing for you, and just be able to be out of the way. But movies do all kinds of things for us, right? They've been around 140 years, more or less, commercially probably 120 of those years. And they have become a force because of all the ways that they can move us. So what are some of the journeys they've taken you on? Where have you gone to that you may never go to without a movie?
I like, and I've always loved the original Cinderella with Leslie Ann Warren.
Yeah. And you'll notice on my list that there's a number of children's movies. And the reason why I like children's movies, like the first movie we're going to watch during this next week is the movie Brave. And the reason I like kid movies is because they have to boil things down past their complexities to some of the more clear messages of how to do things. And so you're right, a Cinderella tells us things in a way that some other stories can't.
So, Pastor Jim, let me ask you, I have not seen the movie Brave. So you said that we're going to watch it. I would imagine we watch it outside of class and then
Yeah.
we come back and we talk about it. So will there be links, or how will that work?
There, what I always do, and this won't work for you guys, is I always have a copy here in the office. This morning, Diane borrowed it from me. I would say get it however you can. I will try not to find movies. I will try not to, from what the choices you make, I'll try not to get movies that are hard to find. Do you have connections to Netflix?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And maybe Amazon Prime?
Library.
Yeah. Just find it anywhere you can. It's a pretty easy to find movie, and try to watch it. If you don't watch it, here's the other thing you can do. Go to the source that I think is the best for this is to go to Wikipedia and read the article about it.
Okay.
And it'll walk you through the storyline. It'll tell you some of the things that happened with it and how successful it was, and there's cast and whatnot. But at least just read the storyline so that you've got an idea of the story.
Can you somehow do a present screen and play it on a computer?
Possibly. I'd have to look. I don't know exactly how it's available for me. If it's a playable thing. The hard part is, but I probably could through Zoom. I could share my computer and let people watch it that way if we needed to. And so, especially if we watch some movie that is more difficult to get, because some of the movies that are on there that are on my list are amazing movies, but they're also relatively harder to connect to. You're not going to find them on
I was
as
just
many
thinking
services.
from our desktop at home in the closet, that you could stick the CD in there and just play it and present the screen in the Zoom, and people could just watch it.
Yeah, we'd have to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
So let me think more about that, though.
There might be some sort of copyright infringement on that also.
There might
If
be a
you're
copyright
showing it.
infringement that way. So
For me, 12 years as a slave, it was a challenging movie, and I normally will stay away from those sort of movies, but it was so eye-opening. And for me, that was where the gift was. It was a hard movie to watch, and I hated it, and I know the way people treated other people. It's that part of our history I just wasn't aware of.
yeah, well, and in some ways that's a really good thing, because it means that you're not having to watch people whipped like happened there. You don't have to live through some of the atrocities that were going on. But one of the nice things about movies is that you get to go into different spaces. Like in a film noir, you get to go back into the dark alleys of the underworld of the city without actually having to let the bullets rip by your head, right? And be in those dangerous places. But you're right that watching that movie hurts the heart.
Very much so. It's kind of like I've seen it, I know about it. I don't want my face rubbed in it again. But if you're giving me new info, yeah, I want to know about it.
Yeah.
I don't want my head in that sand.
And I thought Schindler's List was that way as well. I think everyone should watch Schindler's List at some point or another, because it's a harsh movie, but it also shows very real realities about those death camps that you can't find any other, that are hard to find. So you get to see what happened during that pivotal moment of the last century. But I love that that's what gets to do it. And it's not just the difficult journeys. It's also, you know, in movies, I've been to Tahiti. I've been to the top of Mount Everest. I've been to, you know, you get to go to places that you would have never been able to otherwise. And then there's the dreams you get to go to.
Peter Pan.
The Peter Pans, right? One of my favorite movies starred a man who played Peter Pan in another movie, but this one was called What Dreams May Come. And it's a difficult movie, but it also is taking you on this journey into a world that you can't quite go to. And it's just fascinating because you get to see somebody's vision of what after death might be, right? And Robin Williams, as I made this list out, I didn't intentionally mean to do this, but as I compiled the list, I realized that there was a single person who had more movies on there than any other person, that was Robin Williams. And I think the reason why is because where before I used to say, I just go to escape for a while, I realized after a while that the movies that I really enjoyed were the ones that asked the best questions and that challenged me to go into spaces that I hadn't thought about before and think about. And Robin Williams, I think, chooses his movies that way. It says, what if? Right? Whether it's Miss Doubtfire, what if you had to try to figure out how to stay close to your kids? Or Jacob the Liar, what would it be like if you had to try to make sense of a prison camp, an internment camp? So it does a really good job that way, driving us into spaces. So which movies have made you have to ponder and question the most? Because you don't have to like them. The other day, Joni and I watched a movie that I'm not certain that I liked, but it made me think. And it was a movie where this Black woman is in the waiting room of a police station, and a white officer is, I was going to say helping, but he's really not quite helping, right? He's kind of blocking the way and says, sooner or later, something will be there. Not that he's really being bad, but later on, this white man comes in and he begins telling him, the officer begins telling him all this stuff, thinking that he's another officer that's coming to take care of. But this is the woman's husband. And their son is in some kind of predicament. And it's a terrifying movie in that here's this mom and dad trying to negotiate a space as foreign as a police station, and a space even more terrifying of the racial things that are built in. Their son is just barely 18, so he's an adult. And Joe, you watched that with me. It's called American Son. It's a fascinating but harsh movie. Joe, what's another movie that took you some places that you hadn't expected?
I mean, I think Schindler's List is one that whenever I see it, it definitely takes me to a whole nother place. Super emotional, heartbreaking, you know, puts you in a situation you'll never find yourself in through the eyes of the people, you know, that are in the movie.
Garnet, did we get you on yet?
Finally, I don't know what was.
I'm glad you're here.
Me too.
Thank you for your persistence.
My patience too.
Well, welcome. Tell us a favorite movie of yours, since you've been so long coming in. We could have
Okay.
almost watched a movie waiting for you.
Up.
At least a short.
Yeah.
That in a room without a room with a view.
Why? Tell me.
I haven't seen a room with a view in a long, long, long time, but I know it touched my heart, and it was about perspective. And Up is about perspective, but it's happier.
I love the movie Up. One of my favorite movies of the last 10 years. Just it lifts me up. Just what it does and the story it tells, marvelous. So as we go through this time, I'm going to tell you what will probably happen. We'll watch. You watch the movie, you come in, and my first question is going to be something along these lines. Where did you see God in the movie? Now, let me tell you why I ask that question every time. It's because it's a piece of creation. God as creator is going to be reflected somewhere in that movie, however imperfectly. Right? I'm not trying to say that a movie person has, the maker has exclusive ability to be able to show the perfection of God, but that somehow we're going to be able to see in the positive or in the negative ways that God works, ways that we as human beings work in that divine mode or outside of that divine mode. So let me tell you a story. One of the first times we ever did this class was at First Church Phoenix, and the senior pastor was a man named Peter. A wonderful, amazing man. So we were doing this class together. And then we came to a movie. Peter just looked at me and said, I am not going to watch that movie. Not ready to watch that movie. Don't want to watch that movie. I'm not going to be there. And while I understood him, he missed one of the best discussions we've ever had. Deep and fascinating and complicated discussion. It was the movie Silence of the Lambs, which is a difficult movie to watch, challenging movie to watch. But the character of Hannibal Lecter, this absolutely evil man, right, was also one that you couldn't take your eyes off of. That just like Clarice, you couldn't not want to understand him more. You needed to see that he was not just the evil that was apparent, but there was something more and deeper than just that. And so the conversation around him and then her relationship to him was just fascinating. That's what we want to do, is to try to figure out not just surface things, but deep things, so that we can apply those things to our own self. When have we been on a journey like that one? Right? We may never get in a boat like the African Queen and go down a river that way, but we can be on these journeys that carry us to places both location-wise, but also emotionally, like that journey. Right? That's what we want to try to do, is figure out what kind of things we can glean from that talk about us and how we relate to each other, how we relate to that bigger self of humanity and that even larger self of the divine, and move into those spaces. You don't have to like the movie. Let me be really clear about that. That as you watch it, if you hate it, it's okay. You can say that. But also come in with why it was a struggle for you. What it is that didn't work for you and how it stood in the way of you being able to understand it. Okay? There are movies that are hard movies that way. Don't be afraid of them. Come and see what everyone else figures out too. Okay. So over the next week, when this is over, I'm going to send you a list of all the movies again, in case you don't have it. And if you want to suggest whatever movies, I want you to send those back to me. I want to show you the first movies that we're going to watch. So here's our first list of 3 movies: Brave, The Hate U Give, and Milagro Beanfield War. I don't know if you've seen those before, but here's Brave. It came out 4 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, 2012 maybe. And it's a fascinating movie that's going to take you to Scotland, medieval Scotland, and bring us into a space where we're going to see what it was like to live there. Then we're going to come to the present almost, and a girl growing up in an inner city black neighborhood, but who also buses across town to a white school in order to get classes that aren't offered at her high school, and about how she has to juggle those 2 worlds. Then we're going to slip back into a classic movie. It's from 1988 maybe. Now that's classic now. I know this seems like your childhood, but that's classic, all right? It's a Milagro Beanfield War, one of Robert Redford's directed films. And it's just a fun film from this teeny tiny town in the middle of New Mexico, all right? But you can notice on our list after that, it's completely empty. I've gotten lots of suggestions. I chose these 3 movies from the suggestions that I've gotten so far. But if you would like to suggest any other movies, you respond to the email I'm going to send, and you tell me, and I will choose the ones that get the most votes. All right. If there's, I can't imagine that anybody can think of any movies that are fascinating that are not on my list. But if you think of any of those, you put them on your list as well, okay? like Diane Wilson wrote about the, it's slipping out of my head right now. Hold on just a second, I will tell you what it is. Why can't I think of it? Anyway, it's a movie where the whole time the main character is in like a Casper the Ghost bed sheet, is what it looks like, because he's dead. And it came out about 2 years ago, and it's just a fascinating movie. Oh, here it is. It's called A Ghost Story. That's not on my list, but you ought to watch it sometime. Right? So when we look at all these lists, what are some that poke out at you and you say, I'd like to see that again, or I've never seen that, tell me why we should watch that one? Do you have that list in front of you? Joni's had to look at it for decades now, so she has it memorized, I think.
We have the list in front of us.
Okay, good.
Did
So what
you
are
send
some?
it out?
What?
Did you send the list out?
I did a couple weeks ago. Did you not get a copy? Melissa actually sent it out, but I will send it as soon as class gets over too.
I was never able to open mine.
Never at all? Okay.
Oh, well, you sent out 3. You sent out 3 in links, and the first one, the one about movies focused in on people of color or about people of color, that opened up, but the other 2 didn't. The LGBTQ and the your big long list did not.
Okay. I'm gonna try to send something even as we sit here, so that you you can try opening it again. So as I get that ready, somebody has to talk about a movie.
Do you guys have a question or some questions about what you see on the list? Since you guys have a list,
Yeah, we have
Yeah,
a
we
list.
have a list.
Yeah.
are there any on there you go, what is this?
No, we've seen quite a few of them.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen a bunch of them together, and then independently we've seen them. You know, I'm of the persuasion that I like nice movies. So I don't know how to work. You know, feel good movies. I mean, at some point I used to subject myself to miserable things, and I got over it. Now I just like feel good things. But I also like my eyes open that I haven't seen before. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you guys typically, when there's not a pandemic, go to a movie theater, or do you watch them at home usually?
You know, both. I have an Xfinity account, and we have a Netflix account, so we can watch a fair amount of movies. But we got into the habit of going, because both of us are retired, we got into the habit of going to matinees. And we were choosing Tuesdays because they were cheap on Tuesdays. So we were going quite often on Tuesdays to matinees. And sometimes, you know, we cheated a little bit and caught a second movie after the
When
first.
I'm ready to throw a little pandemic fit, my little pandemic fit is, I want to go to a movie. That's what I throw myself on the ground and cry a little bit, that I just want to go to a movie theater and see a movie.
I have a lot of movies at home, but they're VHS. I
We have
probably
a lot of those too.
have about 100 or more.
Brother's favorite movie is Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah.
And
know
I just don't get it, but that's his favorite movie. All-time
that.
favorite movie.
I love Paul Newman movies.
The difficult part is that there's lots of reasons why somebody might judge a movie like that. It could just be some of the funny things that happen, like the eating the eggs scene. It could be some meaning that he senses as you go through that, for whatever reason. People make decisions about movies for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah, so he gets a copy of it. So
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing of it is like, I am not one who says, I hate this movie because, you know, I never take in that critical stance. I always try to say, okay, what happened in this movie that was interesting to me? Even if the whole movie, the rest of the movie was stupid, because there's a lot of stupid movies out there, right? That I shouldn't say stupid that way. It's surface movies is what you have a lot of, right? So I got this thing that was like 50 Westerns. Okay, so there was a whole bunch of Roy Rogers, and probably about 25 of them were exactly the same story, just with different people acting them out, right? But it's always kind of fun to see some of the little teeny twists and turns that they put in each of them.
Yeah, but sometimes stupid movies, if you're in a mood or you had a hard day, you just don't want to think. And
That's right.
They're perfect.
You escape for a time, right?
Well, I did. I want to let you know that the email came in, and I clicked on the links, and
They all opened.
the 3 opened up. So
All right, that's good. So looking on that one, find me one movie that you've never heard of. Darn it, any of them?
well, on your giant list, the print's really tiny. But what the one I was able to open up in the past, and I kind of looked at it, and what caught my attention was the movie 13, because I know nothing about it, but I've had a couple people tell me, oh my gosh, it's a fantastic movie.
Everybody right now, in the midst of this pandemic, should watch 13th. You just should watch that movie. It's
What's it
available
about?
on what?
What's it about?
The 13th Amendment.
Oh,
It's a movie by Ava DuVernay. She's the lady who did the Wrinkle in Time movie and Selma. She did Selma, and so her thing is okay. So the 13th Amendment to the Constitution is that which abolished slavery. Okay, gave freedom to everyone, right? But we know that that amendment, which passed in 1865, didn't all of a sudden magically change racist America. So it's kind of an exploration of what happened after the 13th Amendment, and how we've protected the racist attitudes in America. So it's a very fascinating movie.
So that's on my list.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely one that should be watched, and she does a marvelous job with that movie.
I will let you know. Well, is there one called Rain? Because it's raining at my house.
Yes.
It's raining in my house too.
So glory be to the rain.
There you go.
That's why I blacked out my screen. I had to run out on the patio and go, "Is that rain I'm hearing?" And it's
There is a movie called Rain, but Rain Man is better. So I have to tell you where my love of movies started.
Please.
I was about 10 years old, and we lived in northern Colorado, and we went across southern Wyoming and into Utah, where my grandma and grandpa lived, and we were at their house. And a movie came on the TV, and it was about a 3-hour-long movie. And this 10-year-old sat enthralled by this movie that had not one word of English in it. It was a movie, one of the best movies ever made, called The Seventh Samurai. It was translated into English as a Western called The Magnificent Seven. Remember that movie?
I remember the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's a good movie as well. But the Seventh Samurai just fascinated me. This look into old Japan, the humor that happened, the 7 different characters that essentially come in to protect a town and against the mobs that were coming. When that movie held me so tight as a 10-year-old, I knew that I'd found something that was worthwhile. So I began watching movies. Like in the town where I was at in northern Colorado, Friday nights, one of the stations had all-night movies. So starting about 12 o'clock, they would show like 3 or 4 movies in a row until 6 in the morning, right? And I tried to stay up every Friday night to watch those movies, right? Because it just fascinates me, these storylines that allow me to go somewhere and think something and become something that I couldn't do without them. Because they transport us into places, and they ask us questions that we might not be presented with any other way. Like 12 Years a Slave, I don't want to go and experience slavery in first person, but I do want to know about it. And so to have that movie there to show us in such a personal way what it was like. So that's what I want you to do, is find movies that will transport us. Make me a list, write them down. I will get those movies. I will pick the movies for the next little bit. For right now, this week, find the movie Brave If you want to, like I said, there's one here in the office, or there will be as soon as Diane brings it back tomorrow. If you come borrow the one here, just bring it back the next day. That's all I ask, so that somebody else can borrow.
Unless it's a weekend.
No, I mean, you just bring it back. You bring it back. I'm here almost every single day because of my schedule. And so if you come and you just put it in the mail slot, you know where the mail slot is?
At the back of the building?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Okay, yes. I have put one, used that one time.
Yep, you just put it in that mail slot and I'll pick it up and have it ready for whoever else wants to. Right?
So I do have a curiosity question.
Yes.
Because you're going to be doing two days of movies. Are you going to be doing the same movie on the both days?
Okay.
Or
So I debated this because, right, if I did them on different movies, then I got to like be paid to watch 2 different movies. That was really appealing to me. I'm working here. But no, we're going to do the same movie at both classes.
okay.
But one of the nice things about it is that where the discussion goes in one class may not be anywhere close to where the discussion goes in another class. Right? It may hit the same things, but it may go on a completely different place. Because I want you to really bring in your own personal reactions to, your own personal insights, the things that it applies differently to your life than what it will to mine. I want you to tell me how this allows you to envision things different in each movie. Okay?
And I will let you know that I've watched, like on your White Fragility, I've watched the replays of the 2 different classes, and it is very interesting where the discussions go.
Yeah, absolutely. Huh. And sometimes I try to get it back on wherever I thought it was going to go, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. All right. So hopefully there'll be some more people as well. Jenny, I know, wanted to be here, but she's probably watching this stuff. But next week, I will send out stuff to you every week, and we'll make sure that we have a good discussion each time. Thank you for your time. I'll be home in about 45 minutes, Joe.
Through the rain.
In the rain. I like driving in the rain because I don't get to very often.
Yep,
Ooh,
it's raining, so be careful.
big thunder. All right, take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Well, hidden life. Okay.